We created a catastrophe in the Middle East. Senator Chris Murphy warns about the Iran war. He says Congress is being shut out of decisions.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, in a few moments, I'm going to call up for a vote, a resolution on a privileged motion to end the war in Iran. I'm going to be joined on the floor by several of my colleagues, all of us here in astonishment that 4 weeks into the most significant conflict in the Middle East, in most of our careers in this body, 12 plus Americans killed, $2 billion at least being spent every day, thousands dead throughout the region, we have still not yet had a single hearing in the United States Senate on the war in Iran. We have not had a debate on a war authorization. We have not had a vote to allow senators to weigh in up or down as to whether they want the United States to be at war again in the Middle East. This is an extraordinary moment. And I know we risk engaging in hyperbole these days, coming down to the floor and naming one moment as extraordinary after another moment. But I don't think we have had a moment like this where the United States has been unquestionably at war with a foreign power, where American soldiers are dying as we speak, and it is being hidden actively from the public by the Congress. It's bad enough that we haven't had a debate and vote other than those forced by Democrats. We haven't had a hearing in the Foreign Relations Committee. We haven't had a hearing in the Armed Services Committee. Now, I think we know the reason. The reason is that this administration cannot defend and explain this war. But if they cannot, and if they are not willing to come to Congress and defend this war, it speaks to the indictment of the preparation and the strategy. I'm going to read to you an excerpt from a Washington Post article. Now, the Washington Post has been being very careful about their criticism of the president recently. A surge of additional U.S. forces in the Middle East and President Donald Trump's threat to obliterate Iran's energy infrastructure have set the stage for what U.S. and Israeli security officials increasingly see as the war's endgame, a battle for control of the Strait of Hormuz and key energy installations. Reopening the strait has emerged as perhaps the paramount objective of the war. Officials now believe it is unlikely to achieve goals that briefly seemed possible at the outset of the war, including overthrowing Iran's theocratic regime and putting a nuclear weapon permanently out of Tehran's reach. Okay, let me restate that for you. The Trump administration now says that the goal of the war is not to dislodge an anti-American regime in Tehran. It is not to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. It's not even to permanently end Iran's ability to have missiles that can reach their neighbors or drone capacity that can provoke in the region. The primary goal now is to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Here's the problem. The strait was open before the war began. We are now seeking to solve a problem that we created.
Something is unfolding in Washington that many Americans are not being told about. In a powerful Senate speech, Senator Chris Murphy delivers a warning that stops the chamber in its tracks. He says plainly, "We have created a catastrophe in the Middle East." According to the senator, the United States is now deeply involved in a major conflict in Iran and the wider Middle East. But what shocks him most is not just the war itself. It's the fact that Congress has barely debated it. No full hearings, no proper authorization vote, and no serious public discussion. Murphy argues that this is not just a military situation. It is a national decision being made without democratic oversight. He warns that American lives are already being lost, and the cost is enormous. He claims the war is costing billions of dollars every day, while tensions across the region continue to rise. The senator describes a chain reaction spreading across the Middle East: missile strikes in multiple countries, rising instability in Israel and neighboring regions, growing fear of a wider regional war. He suggests the conflict is no longer contained, it is expanding. Beyond the battlefield, he warns of serious economic consequences. Prices are rising globally. Fuel costs are increasing, and American families are already feeling the pressure. He argues that this war is not just fought overseas, it is affecting everyday life at home. Then comes his strongest accusation. He claims the United States is now trying to solve problems that it helped create. According to him, the war's goals are unclear, shifting, and possibly unrealistic. What was once framed as a decisive mission now appears, in his words, confusing and ineffective. Murphy warns that the longer the war continues, the worse the consequences will become, not just militarily, but politically and economically as well. He argues that America is heading into a situation that is becoming harder to control every day. At the end of his speech, he brings the issue back to Congress itself. He reminds lawmakers that the Constitution gives them the responsibility to decide matters of war, not the executive branch alone. And if Congress refuses to act, he says he and his colleagues will force repeated votes until they do. He closes with a final warning. This war, he says, is not becoming clearer. It is not becoming easier. And it is not becoming more popular. Instead, it is becoming more dangerous with every passing day. And, according to him, the United States is now facing consequences that it fully failed to prepare for.